An agreement to restore the 2015 Iran nuclear deal between Tehran and world powers could be near. This as the European Union has now submitted a final text to salvage the high-stakes agreement aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear program. The development came amid a new round of nuke talks in Vienna. The EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said that the latest indirect EU-mediated talks focus on technical adjustments to a text that he proposed last month. He further added that this text is now a final one and cannot be amended any further. The revival of the agreement now awaits political decisions in Tehran and Washington. While the US has said that it is ready to quickly reach an agreement to revive the deal on the basis of the EU proposal, Iranian officials have said that they would convey their additional views and considerations to the European Union regarding the agreement. EU's proposal came a day after Iran's foreign minister said that the outcome of the ongoing talks depends entirely on Washington's flexibility. Iran has been demanding the lifting of sanctions imposed by Washington on Tehran. Iran has repeatedly insisted that the nuclear deal is of no value to the country if sanctions are not lifted. The 2015 accord agreed upon by Iran, the US, China, Russia, Britain, France and Germany offered Tehran sanctions relief in exchange for curbs on its nuclear program. Iran, however, intensified its nuclear advances after the US, under Donald Trump, backed out from this deal in 2018. Fresh negotiations to revive the 2015 nuclear accord started in April last year. However, with frequent halt in negotiations since then, the countries have failed to revive the deal so far. And for more details, our correspondent Rosie Burchard is now joining us live from Brussels. Rosie, thanks for joining us. Tell us more about this final text submitted by the European Union to salvage the high-stakes agreement.
Well, this really is what has been led to by a year and a half of stop-start, high-stakes talks, indirect talks between Tehran and Washington, mediated by the European Union. The European Union here trying to put all its diplomatic might behind this bid to try and revive the Iran nuclear deal, which is, of course, very much seen as being on life support ever since the withdrawal of the United States, which then we saw Iran responding to that by ramping up its nuclear activities. And EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has warned those nuclear activities are now at what he calls an alarming level. So the efforts here are to try and bring these two parties back to the table to restore that deal, which, as you mentioned, Priyanka, included Iran agreeing on restrictions to its nuclear activities, its nuclear program, in exchange for the lifting of most international sanctions on Iran. Now, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell on the 21st of July put forward a new compromise text on the table. There have been, he says, tweaks and amendments to that over these several days of talks in Vienna, indirect talks between Tehran and Washington. But now he says this is a take it or leave it deal, and it's up to the capitals to decide if and how they want to move forward. An anxious wait for officials here in Brussels.
Absolutely, Rosie. The revival of this agreement now awaits quote-unquote political decisions in Tehran and Washington. What could this entail in your view?
This is absolutely what the European Union is saying. It's a coordinator, so it's not got an opinion on whose concerns are more valid than the others. The EU officials I've spoken to say that there are valid concerns really on both sides here, but there have been, Priyanka, since the start of this 1.5 years of talks, been consistent concerns from both sides around sequencing. So that really means who does what first. Are sanctions lifted on Iran before restrictions or curbs are reimposed on its nuclear activities, or would it be the other way around? Now, there have been disagreements on that throughout these talks. There have also been some concerns raised by Iran about a probe by the UN's nuclear watchdog into reports of nuclear material being found at several undeclared sites in Iran. That's another stumbling block. So while analysts are saying that a breakthrough may now be near, there do still seem to be major political hurdles on the horizon. And it's not the first time that all these sides seem to have been on the brink of a big political breakthrough. There have been, for example, in the last few months, edging towards what seemed like a solution, and then in fact a retraction, so moving back toward new talks. And in fact the last round of talks, which took place in Doha, ended without any progress. That's an eventuality the EU is hoping to avoid this time round. It's now, as you said, back over to the capitals, back over to Tehran and Washington to decide on this text, which the EU's foreign policy chief Josep Borrell really is the final offer.
Absolutely, Rosie. Thanks so much for all those inputs, and thanks for joining us on Beyond at this hour. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.